So we're picking up page 1256, Hamlet Act 1, Scene 5. I'm going to back up just a little bit to where we were discussing some stuff on Monday. Line 9, let's say. The ghost speaks to Hamlet. I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast and fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. But that I am forbid to tell the secrets of my prison house, I could a tale unfold whose lightest word would harrow up thy soul, freeze thy young blood, make thy two eyes like stars start from their spheres, thy knotted and combined locks, to part in each particular hair to stand and end, like quills upon the fretful porcupine. But this eternal blazon must not be to ears of flesh and blood. List, O list, if thou didst ever thy dear father love. If you would, sign your name to the right-hand column under 20.018. And I stopped the other day saying, okay, we're going to have to pause here because what the ghost has just described is purgatory. Okay? Notice, he is doomed during the day to fast and fires till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. So we've got to pause and talk a little bit about the Protestant Reformation and some differences between Catholicism and Protestantism. October 31st, the year 1517, an Augustinian monk named Martin Luther nails to the church door in Wittenberg, Germany, spelled Wittenberg, a place that is referred to more than once in the play. It's where Hamlet is a student. It's where Horatio was a student. Okay? He nailed to the church door in Wittenberg 95 theses. What's a thesis? You've all written one before. High school, maybe some college so far. It's an argument, right? That's all it is. A point of contention. It is a statement of opinion. Okay? 95 of these. These weren't, the Pope's a crook, not that kind of contention. They were all about problems that Luther saw in the church. Okay? He was an Augustinian monk. 4 main groups of monastic orders, or 4 main monastic orders. The Benedictines, named after St. Benedict, the most important saint in the west part of the church, founded Western monasticism. Augustinians, named after St. Augustine. Dominicans, named after St. Dominic. Franciscans, named after St. Francis of Assisi. Okay? This is the oldest one, and the others are relatively newer, let's put it that way. Augustinians, pretty severe monks. Okay? Vows of chastity. They all had vows of chastity, poverty, etc. Okay? So Luther's a monk, and he has these 95 points that he wants to discuss. That's the only purpose for it. He wants to discuss these problems. Or, you signed it already? Or what he saw as problems. He wants to reform the church. He wants to purify the church. He doesn't want to destroy the church. Catholic Church, okay, that I'm referring to. Nobody takes him up. Nobody says, okay, I'll sit down. We'll have this argument. Now, let me back up just a moment. In 1453, so this is 1517, 1453, Johannes Gutenberg invents the printing press with movable type. In one of my classes, I said, he invented the movable printing press, kind of implying you could take it from here to there. Well, you could. It was of a size that you could take it from here to there and stuff. But it's a printing press that has movable type. It's where we get our terms, by the way, uppercase and lowercase. Uppercase refers to the box that large, what are called capital letters, are kept in. lowercase refers to the lower part of the box that all the lower, smaller letters are kept, okay? This makes the spreading of ideas much easier because you can write something, give it to a printer sets it in type, and just sits there and starts making copies. It's a 1453 Xerox, okay? That's where the idea comes from. So when Luther does this, it's now nearly 75 years later, these 95 theses get printed. And they start getting disseminated, spread around. Nobody takes them up on it. So for the next 4 years, okay, Luther starts writing what he thinks. He starts writing what are called broadsides, these pamphlets that get printed on these big sheets of paper, and they spread around. The Protestant Reformation begins. Why? He's protesting. He's protesting against Rome. There's a whole bunch of reasons, more than 95 of them actually, for why Luther does this. But one of the things that bothered him the most, initially at least, was this guy named Johannes Tetzel, who was a seller of, I don't have it written down, a seller of indulgences. An indulgence is a piece of paper issued by the Pope to do what? To get you to heaven. Or, another way of looking at it, to buy you time out of purgatory. And different indulgences were given in exchange for different amounts of money. The more serious the crime, or the longer the time, the more it would cost you to pay. Okay? So you could buy an indulgence for yourself, even though you're not dead yet, or you could buy an indulgence for a dead family member that you believe to be in purgatory. Give somebody 20 pounds, 20 bucks, 20 marks, etc., and it buys off a certain amount of time. Apparently, Tetzel had this little rhyme that he would sing. Whenever a coin in the copper clinks, the soul from purgatory springs. So he's walking around hawking his wares, his indulgences in Germany, and Luther hears that, and that just drives him batso. 95 Theses. Okay, Luther, by the way, he's an Augustinian monk, vows celibacy. He leaves the church, he leaves his monkhood, his monastery, and he marries a woman named Catherine. If I remember correctly, she had been a nun. So, I mean, he's just, both barrels, the whole 9 yards. Another problem Luther had, which I won't go into detail, is he had a real problem with confession. The practice of confession. He'd go to confession, and he'd be leaving the confession, he'd be leaving the church, and he'd sin up here. He'd have an image of lust or something. He'd go back to the priest. And he finally came to this realization. To him it was a realization, I can never confess enough. I'm just constantly sinning, which probably says more about Luther than it does about the practice of confession, which is why we won't talk about it anymore. Okay? So, that happens in 1517. He writes stuff. His stuff gets spread, disseminated. People start to question the church, the Pope, the Rome, the whole 9 yards. 1521, the Holy Roman Emperor, Charles V, who's German, okay, by the way, not Holy German Emperor, Holy Roman Emperor, anyways, invites Luther to what's called the Diet of Worms, W-U-R-M-S. Pronounced, the W's are V in German, but it's Worms. Okay? In Hamlet, we're going to see in Act 5, there's going to be a reference to a certain convocation of worms. Okay? Everybody says Shakespeare's alluding to this. Okay? In the Diet of Worms, Luther was told, you're going to get your chance to have your debate. And he's like, great. There'll be cardinals, there'll be prelates, The Pope wasn't coming, but, close enough. And he said, but before I come, I need two things. I need grant of safe passage to and from. Those are the two things. Safe passage. I won't be molested, I won't be kidnapped, etc. on the way there, and you will allow me to leave without being kidnapped, arrested, imprisoned. Cool, not a problem. He gets there. He walks into the room where the debate is going to happen, and he finds a table with everything he's written over the last 4 years piled on that table. Everything, a copy of everything. Here's the debate. Take it all back. That's what he's told. Not much of a debate, right?
No.
And Luther's like, give me 24 hours. Let me pray about this. Cool, we understand, man of God, whole 9 yards. He goes off and he comes back the next day, and according to one of Luther's most famous biographers, a guy named Roland Baton, Luther said, unless it can be proven to me through scripture, through logic, or my conscience, here I stand. I can do no other. In other words, I stand by every last damn word I wrote on these pages. You have to prove me wrong. Debate. No, not how the Roman Catholic Church works. By the way, the idea of papal infallibility, that doesn't come up in the church until the 19th century. That's only one of two ex cathedra, that is, from the papal throne, statements issued by the Pope. The other one is the Immaculate Conception of Mary. Those are the only two that the Pope cannot be wrong about. Okay? Those are the only two statements that the Roman Catholic Church in all of its history has ever said that about. So, Luther leaves, he gets kidnapped. Safe rite of passage. He's kidnapped by his friends. They take him to a castle, I think it's Wittenberg Castle, and he starts translating the Bible. He translates the Bible into German. Why? Because Luther said everybody should be able to read the Bible in their own language. We don't need priests. We don't need bishops. We don't need all the sacraments. We do need some of them, like communion and baptism. Okay? We don't need to pray to saints. And we get this belief system called Protestantism that comes out of this. John Calvin comes around just a few years later, launches what's called the Reformed Church, the Presbyterian in Scotland and stuff like that. Henry VIII writes an argument against Luther in 1526, I think it is, and is called the Defender of the Faith by the Pope. So that's now one of his official titles. And then just a few years later than that, he breaks from Rome because Rome won't grant him his divorce, etc. Okay? Why do I mention all this? Because central from when? I think it's like, I don't have it the date exact. I think it's like the 10th or 11th century. Might be the 9th. Central in Catholic cosmology, let's say, spiritual cosmology, is the belief not only in heaven and hell, but purgatory is also there. Okay? You don't see the idea, you don't see purgatory as a place referred to in, for example, writings of the church fathers in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th even centuries. Okay? So what's purgatory? In between place, you go to purgatory and you can go up or down? Nope. You go to purgatory if you are deemed by God to be saved. All right? But before you get to heaven, you got to get cleaned up. The sin that you have has got to get purged. That's why it's purgatory. If you go to hell, you're done. No, get out of jail card. Monopoly's very, in one sense, very spiritual game. Okay? There's no get out of jail card. You're there forever. Except for just a couple of instances in church history, which we won't talk about. Okay? The vast majority of people, according to the Catholic Church, went to purgatory. Very, very few went straight to heaven. Okay? So purgatory is a place of purgation. You go to purgatory, you will get to heaven. It might take a bazillion years. It might take a year. You buy an indulgence for somebody, it might get there 10 years. They might only have 9 years left. They go. Okay? Thing is, you don't necessarily know how much time you have. It's not like they put a stamp on your head, kind of a thing. Okay? So, he's bound to fast and fires during the day. And the term fast there doesn't mean necessarily what your gloss says. Probably to do without food. I cannot iterate how utterly asinine that statement is in this context. Why not? Why is it utterly asinine? He's dead. He's a ghost already. Ghosts don't eat. Hello? You would think a PhD editor of this massive textbook would be able to, fast there in fires. To fast just simply means to go without. It's to go without everything, to go without any kind of pleasure. But it also can mean to be bound. Okay? Fast can also mean to be secure. So he's locked up, and during the evening he can roam around. Okay? But he says, if I could tell you what happens there, notice it would harrow up your soul. You would die immediately. You think scary movies are bad? It is. Okay? So, if you did ever love your father, oh God, revenge is foul and most unnatural murder. Why unnatural? You do have a gloss. I'm almost afraid. Perpentine. Where is it? Unnatural. Pertaining to fratricide. It goes against nature. But in one sense, it doesn't go against nature. Why? What's the first murder? Cain and Abel. Brother to brother. Okay? Murder. Murder most foul is in the best it is, but this was foul, strange, and unnatural. Hamlet. Let me know why. With wings as swift as meditation or the thoughts of love may sweep to my revenge. Now he's kind of implying there, what's he going to do? Tell me who killed you, and they're dead. It's like, as soon as we stop talking, I'll go find the person, and they're gone. Okay? Ghost, I find the apt. That is, oh, good. You're already primed and ready. All I got to do is give you the word. So, he says, you were told that I died while sleeping in my orchard, and a serpent stung me. But that serpent that did sting thy father's life now wears his crown. My brother is the serpent. Hamlet, oh my prophetic soul. Why does he call his soul prophetic? I knew there was something wrong with Claudius. Okay? So they go on, and the ghost talks about, his brother and his wife, ex-wife, ex only in the sense that they're no longer married because he's dead. And she goes on and talks about how he really died sleeping in the orchard, that he used to do, apparently his common practice was to take a nap in the orchard, and his brother came in and poured poison in his ear. Okay? 74, thus was I sleeping by a brother's hand, of life of crown of queen at once dispatched, cut off even in the blossoms of my sin. Blossoms. His sin was kind of in full bloom in his life. Unhouseled, and you've got a gloss down there, without having received the sacrament. But what does your gloss not tell you? Which sacrament? There are 7 sacraments in the Catholic Church. You got confirmation and baptism, you've got the Eucharist, you've got marriage, you've got holy orders, you've got last unction, you've got penance and confession. Okay? Which one's he talking about? Unhoused, disappointed, unannulled, no reckoning made, but sent to my account with all my imperfections on my head. He died without confession. If you've ever watched a TV drama, a cop drama of some kind, some guy gets shot, he's not yet dead, and there's a priest there. Why? Last rites. The last rites aren't only the anointing with oil and prayers for the dead, they are, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. That's enough. Or forgive me. Done. We're going to see that kind of forgiveness given at the end of the play. Hamlet is going to say to a character, your sins not be on, let my sins not be on your head, yours not on mine. I don't hold you guilty for my death, Hamlet's going to say. Okay? Hamlet Sr. died, to use another word, which is going to show up in the play, unshriven. We just had in February Mardi Gras. What's the Tuesday before Mardi Gras? Or, excuse me, what's the Wednesday? It's also called Shrove Wednesday. I'm pretty sure that's right. Because Tuesday is Fat Tuesday. What's Fat Tuesday? Load up. Why? Because you start Lent in the Catholic Church on Wednesday. And you go to church. That's why you see people. I saw somebody, I don't remember who it was, some famous, news person was interviewed or something. Big old mark of ash in the shape of a cross on his forehead. Ash Wednesday. Why? Because you enter the penitential season, and what do you do to enter the penitential season? You confess your sins. You go for confession. Okay? Now, if that person had died that very morning, immediately after saying confession, heaven. More than likely. Okay? So, he dies without that opportunity. That's why he's confined to purgatory. So, the ghost goes on, and he says, lines 84, Howsoever thou pursues this act. What act? What's he asked Hamlet to do? Revenge. Howsoever you pursue this revenge, taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive anything against thy mother. So leave your mom alone. God will deal with her. And don't taint your mind. What does it mean, taint not thy mind? What does it mean to taint something? Oh, that this too sullied flesh would thaw, melt, and resolve itself into a dew. To sully something is exactly the same thing as to taint something. You get a gallon of white paint. How do you taint it? You put dirt in it. You take a drop of any other color and drop it in. It's tainted. It's no longer pure. So he's saying, let your mind, Hamlet, remain pure. Love Jesus. While you're killing your uncle. You can do both. No. No, you can't. Okay? And so his final words are to Hamlet, remember me. Hamlet. O all you host of heaven, all the angelic beings. Okay? O earth, what else? Shall I couple hell? That is, shall I unite heaven, earth, and hell, and everything in them, meaning everything in the universe? Oh, fie, hold my heart. He's already told us once, but break my heart. Now he's saying, hold it together, Hamlet, a little while longer. In you my sinews grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. That is, don't die. Don't fall apart right now. Why does he have to tell himself this? 2 reasons at least. Okay, he already, that this 2 solid flesh, he's already contemplating suicide. He's just seen the ghost of his dead father. That would be enough to, blow the mind. And the ghost of his dead father, second part, has told him, kill your uncle. He just, it's enough to kill a person. But bear me stiffly up. Remember thee? Oh, aye, thou poor ghost, whiles memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. What's this distracted globe? Where is the memory? It's up here, right? It's in the mind. Interestingly, Shakespeare refers to the theater, his theater, as the globe. It's called the globe. Henry V begins with a prologue that talks about, in this wooden O, imagine the fields of Agincourt, France, okay, during the 100 Years' War. So, I don't remember if I've ever seen a production of this that does this. You could have, in this distracted globe, where Hamlet kind of signifies, the world is distracted. Remember in that this sullied flesh speech, he talks about how stale, weary, flat, unprosperous are all the uses of this world. It's trash to him. Okay? But because he mentions memory, it's more likely he's referring to his mind. And he says, whilst memory holds a seat in this distracted globe, remember thee? What's he mean? If the globe is his head, his mind, and it's distracted, what has it lost? What does it mean to be distracted? Everybody in here has been distracted in this class. I've looked around, I've seen faces down on, You're not here, right? Mentally elsewhere. Distracted, tracted like tractor, dragged away. Tract and drag, they're the same word. English, drag, is the exact same. I can show you etymologically and phonologically how the words are the same. Okay? Dis, away, bad. The mind, his mind, is what? It's not focused. And we go back to, that this too sullied flesh. Hamlet's not thinking right. Remember thee. Yea. From the table of my memory I'll wipe away all trivial, fond records. Fond means what? If I'm fond of you, it means I like you. That's one meaning. Another meaning is foolish. Foolish records. I used to, when I was in my 20s, every now and then somebody in college, would say, hey, let's play Trivial Pursuit. And I go, no, you really don't want to. Because I'd win every time. Why? Trivial, fond memories up here. TV shows from the 60s and 70s, everything. Okay? My daughter probably can still tell you, back when it was on with Matt Smith and stuff, she'd be able to tell you exact episodes and when in episodes things would happen in the Doctor Who universe. I mean, she had them all that way. My son can still, you mention a line from something like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and he'll give you the next line. That trivial fond. I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all saws of books, all forms, all pressures past that youth and observation copied there. What did the ghost tell him not to do? Taint not thy mind. What is Hamlet telling us he's going to do? He's not just going to taint it. He's going to remove. He's going to do a total hard drive reformat of his brain. Everything he's learned up to that point, gone. Replaced with 2 words. Kill Claudius. And thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain, unmixed with baser matter. Yes, by heaven, oh, most pernicious woman! And he lashes out at his mother. Villain, villain, smiling, damned villain, my tables. That is his writing media, the stuff he's going to write on. Meet it is, I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. Hamlet's telling us, I think, what he's going to do. He's going to walk around smiling at people. Why? So he can shake their hand with one hand and stab them with the other. Literally, it's going to happen in one, well, almost literally. That's going to happen in one scene. Okay? So, Horatio and Marcellus come in. Hamlet talks with them. Hamlet makes them swear that they will never reveal anything about the ghost, and the ghost utters from beneath the stage, swear, swear. They swear on his sword, etc. The end of the scene, page 1260, line 165 and following. Go back. 164. Horatio says, "O day and night, but this is wondrous strange." Wondrous. Unbelievable. First of all, what's unbelievable? Ghosts. They talk, because he's heard the ghost swear. Hamlet. And therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. That's the idea of hospitality again. Stranger knocks at the door, let him in. Welcome this strangeness, Horatio. Why? There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. One of the most famous quotes from all of English literature. What's he mean by than are dreamt of in your philosophy?
He's the guy that believes, like, if you can't see it or touch it, then you can't believe it.
Pretty much. It's assumed Horatio is a Stoic. Roman Stoic. Notice, everybody but Hamlet pretty much has Roman names. Okay? What did the Stoics believe? There is no heaven and hell. There is no rewards or punishment after death. There is no soul. When you die, you die. That's it. So what's the meaning of life? Ultimately, there isn't one. So, how do you then live? You live in such a way that you don't suffer the downs of life and you don't enjoy the height. You try to float on an even keel. You live life just, plodding along, and then you die. Why? Because that way you don't suffer. And the avoidance of suffering is the way to live. Because who likes suffering, right? There are more things that are dreamt of in your philosophy. That is, your philosophy, Horatio, isn't big enough. He says, but come, as before, help you mercy. As strange or odd soe'er I bear myself, as I perchance hereafter shall think meet, to put an antic disposition on, Don't do what? So, from here, from this point on, Hamlet says, I might at times do what? At bet you know what crazy. I'm just going to be totally whacked out. Don't give out that you know I'm pretending to be crazy. All right, everybody cool here? Swear. And he holds his sword and the ghost utters, swear. And oh, okay. Calm down, spirit. So, with all my love I do commend me to you, and what so poor a man as Hamlet is may do to express his love and friendly to you, God willing shall not lack. That is, if you do what I asked, I'll pay you back. Big time. Big rewards. So let's go in. And still your fingers on your lips. That is, no word. The time is out of joint. He's telling them, don't tell anybody. Something's wrong with the world. But he says not just something's wrong. The time is out of joint. O cursed spite that ever I was born to set it right. If you think of the great chain of being, that great chain of being exists, metaphorically, in all realms of existence. Well, what is an aspect of existence? According to Einstein, space, time. Hamlet saying, time, it's out of joint. So what does he have to do? What is a joint? What is a joint? It's not the kind you smoke. Okay. What is a joint? You know, this is a joint. That's 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 a joint. A joint occurs where? Two things meet. Time's out of. You ever had a dislocated joint? I've had fingers dislocated. I had this shoulder, wasn't out of joint, but my rotator cuff, the four tendons that make up that joint, totally severed. Very much out of joint. Hamlet is saying, we got to get time back together. You've probably all seen some kind of science fiction TV episode or movie where time gets bent. A time loop, people are out of phase, or like 1 second out. And according to that kind of ideology, if I'm operating 1 second or 1 millisecond out of time compared to the rest of you, you can't see me. I can see you, but you can't see me, you can't hear me, you can't touch me. I can't do things like this because this exists in your time, but I'm slightly outside. He's got to fix it. What's Hamlet telling us? This is his raison d'etre. This is his reason for being. This is the reason he was born. However many years before. Why? In the great providence of God. He was going to fix it. So, Act 2 opens. Polonius' house, in a room. Polonius is talking to another servant. Reynaldo. What's he talking? And there's like 80 lines. 80? 70. 70 lines. He and Reynaldo spend talking. What are they talking about? What is he hiring Reynaldo to do? Louder? Watch, guard, wait, what? What's the object? Who's going to be watched? Who's going to be guarded? Laertes. He's sending Reynaldo to Paris for what purpose? It's one of the main themes in the play. To spy on his son. Okay? He talks about specific things he wants Reynaldo to take note of. And those specific things refer to the advice he gave his son. What does this show us about Polonius and his son? Or Polonius's attitude towards his son? He doesn't trust him. Mistrust is a theme in the play. Okay? So he's going to send somebody to spy on his own son. And then Reynaldo leaves. Ophelia comes in. Ophelia is all distressed. Oh, my Lord, I've been so affrighted. He says, with what in the name of God? As I was sewing in my closet, Lord Hamlet, with his doublet all unbraced, no hat upon his head, his stockings fouled, unguarded, and down jived to his ankle, pale as his shirt, his knees knocking, and with a look so piteous and purport as if he had been loosed out of hell to speak of horrors, he comes before me. Okay? What does he do? He grabs her by the wrist, so her arm is out like this, Hamlet's arm is out like this, and she says, he looks at me, he covers his eyes, his brow, with the other hand and just stares at me, holding her like this, as if he was going to do a drawing. So he's really getting the features down and everything. Why do we get the long description, line 76 to 82 or so, to 80, about his clothing? These were a medieval and Renaissance literal medical diagnosis of the symptoms of lovesickness. Lovesickness was a medical diagnosis. Oh, I know what's wrong with you. You're sick for love. You've fallen in love and she hasn't returned your love. It's pretty clear. You're not dressing properly. You're not putting your hat on. You're not tying up your doublet. Your socks, hose are down around your ankles. They're not pulled up and tied into the garter. You know, you haven't brushed your teeth and brushed your hair. All symptoms of lovesickness. Okay? And she says, interestingly, with a look on his face like he had seen the horrors of hell. Well, kind of. He'd seen his dead father's ghost that has just come from purgatory. Mad for thy love? British usage of the word mad, not American. American usage, mad means angry. British usage, crazy, lunatic. I don't know. Last time she and Polonius talked, she tells Polonius about Hamlet's tenders of affection. And he says, tenders of affection. How do you take this? She goes, I don't know, my lord, what I should take, because I'm just a silly girl. My name begins with an O. It means nothing. Feminists really don't like the portrayal of Ophelia. Okay? And here again, I don't know what to think. What did he say? And she tells him, taking her by the arm, etc., etc. Polonius, come on, let's go. We got to go talk to the king. Why? This is the very ecstasy of love. What do we mean today by the word ecstasy? If you're ecstatic, what's it mean? Excited, happy, joyful. I won the lottery. I'm not coming in tomorrow, that kind of thing, right? Who wouldn't? You win the $1 billion lottery, I guarantee you, I don't play the lottery, I don't buy tickets. If somebody were to give me one and I won the mega jackpot, I'd be sick tomorrow. And the next day, and the next day, I would pay somebody to come in and, kidding. I wouldn't be here next year, definitely, okay? Ecstasy, as Shakespeare is using it, doesn't mean that. It has the old original meaning, an out-of-body experience, where the soul leaves the body, but the body doesn't die, okay? It's a Greek idea. John Donne, poet, we're going to read a couple poems of later, if we ever get to them. John Donne wrote a poem called The Ecstasy, and it's about two lovers. Guy and a girl, they're sitting on a riverbank, next to a river, and they're holding hands and looking at each other. And that's it. That's all they do, all day long. Their bodies are described as frozen. Why? Because their souls have risen out of their bodies and they negotiate love. In other words, they talk to each other. But the poet says they each meant the same thing. That they each say the exact same thing. And you get to the end of the part where their souls are talking, and then apparently they both say, so why don't we go back down to our bodies? In other words, we both mean the same thing, we both say the same thing. Let's go back down to our bodies so that we can really experience love. It's a sex poem without being about sex. It's one of the greatest love poems in the English language. Okay? I don't think it's in your book. So, why does he need to go talk to the king? This is the very ecstasy of love whose violent property foredoes itself and leads the will to desperate undertakings. People do stupid things for love. Antony and Cleopatra, all for love, as Shakespeare puts it in his play, Antony and Cleopatra. They kill each other. Romeo and Juliet, they kill each other. Not Romeo kills Juliet, Romeo kills himself, Juliet kills herself, etc. Antony kills himself, Cleopatra kills herself, etc. Okay? Have you given him any hard words of late? Have you said, Hamlet, get away from me. I don't love you. I don't want any of your trash anymore. That's what he means by hard words. She says, no, my lord, and then throws it back in his face. I merely did as you commanded. I repelled his letters and denied his access to me. Guess what, folks? Those were hard words. If you've ever been in love before, and you said to the object of your love, the person that you love, I love you, and the other person said, ew, hard word, okay? Or, I love you, will you marry me? No, are you kidding me? I'm holding out for something better, Hard words. That have made him mad. Crazy, yeah. And the modern American sense probably too. Because people mad for love will do crazy things, right? Really? No, I think you will marry me. I'm sorry that with better heed and judgment I had not quoted him. And your gloss says for quoted, observed. It does mean that. But I think it means also more of what we mean by quote. Because when she told Polonius about Hamlet's letters, his tenders of affection, what did he say they meant? He just wants to have sex with you. These are just traps. In other words, he kind of quotes what Hamlet means by them. And notice now he says, I feared he did but trifle and meant to rack thee. Literally, put her on the rack, that is, bed her. Okay? He was going to be the rack on her. But, interesting Freudian line, but beshrew my jealousy. It's the Electra/Oedipal complex. He said that about Hamlet, and Hamlet's desires for Ophelia, why? Because of his jealousy? Freud, loved this kind of stuff. By heaven, and then he offers an apology of sorts. I'm so old, I forgot what it's like to really be in love. That's his implication. He is implying Hamlet really loves Ophelia. See, a lot of critics don't think so. A lot of critics kind of think, no, Hamlet just wants in her pants, that's it. I think the text of the play makes crystal clear. Hamlet truly loves Ophelia. Ophelia truly loved Hamlet. How to jump ahead? Well, have any of you finished it? A couple of you. I'll wait. You guys have read it before. Yeah. So, scene 2. King comes in with the queen, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, a bunch of others. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are childhood friends of Hamlet's. Horatio is a university friend. He met him in college, I think is implied. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern go back to like when they were school age, grade school age. Okay? Why are they there? What does he employ them for? Previous scene began with Polonius talking to Reynaldo about what? Spying on his son. This scene begins with the king and queen talking to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern about spying on Hamlet. Okay? Queen says, he's talked about you. He has no better friends. Who better than you? And they say, we'll do it. Okay? Notice, by the way, line 32 or so. Thanks, Rosencrantz and gentle Guildenstern. Thanks, Guildenstern and gentle Rosencrantz. Why does the queen reverse their names? What were you guys taught when you read this play?
That they had no importance.
Yeah. They're Tweedledee and Tweedledum. It doesn't matter what you call one. They're totally interchangeable. They do have importance. That part was incorrect. Whoever taught you that. They do have importance. But in terms of their characters, they're stock. They're flat. We don't get any real motivation in them. Okay? Tom Stopper wrote a play in the 1960s titled Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. It's one of the greatest works of what's called the theater of the absurd. And what he's really kind of getting at is they're still dead. Because they end up dead within the course of the play, and why they die is part of what he's dealing with. Okay? So, Polonius comes in with ambassadors. We're going to skip all the ambassador stuff. And Polonius then says, lines 86 and following, what time is it? 10:01. Not as far as I want to go. So I'm not going to talk about it. Polonius tells the king and queen, Hamlet's mad. He's mad for love. And you get a very famous little short speech, 86 and following, where Polonius says the quote, brevity is the soul of wit, and he shows he has no wit. Wit not meaning humor, wit meaning intelligence. Why? Because he doesn't know how to be brief. It's why the queen says, more matter, less art. Get to the point with less artifice. Okay? So he says, I have a daughter. I'll loose her on Hamlet. In one of Shakespeare's, it's either one of the Henry IV plays or Henry V, a character cries, cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war. I'll loose my daughter on him. Like, come here, Ophelia. Get him. That's right, sick him. Why is he going to loose his daughter on him? Two reasons. One, she will spy on Hamlet. And he says, when we do that, Hamlet walks, he says, for 4 hours at a time in this lobby. Okay? He says, that's when I'll loose her on him. And we, Claudius and Polonius, will stand behind an arras. An arras is a curtain. Okay? They often use the arrases at the back of the stage. At the Globe, for example, at Shakespeare's Globe, there are windows here and here that have wooden shutters, but the windows can be open so that you can look inside. And sometimes they'll be used so that you can look inside within the play and see something that's supposed to be happening off stage within the world of the play, so to speak. But the arrases often cover the doors. So when people enter and exit the stage, the arras will be open, but if it's meant to be an enclosed room somewhere, the arras will be there like curtains covering something. So he says, I'll loose her here, and we'll stand behind an arras and do what? And mark what he says. They won't see Hamlet, but they will hear him. The scene that he's talking about, it's in Act 3, Scene 1. To be or not to be, that is the question. It's the most famous, as your book will say, or does say, it's the most famous soliloquy in the entire English language. But it's not a soliloquy. Hamlet's on the stage. Ophelia is on the stage. Claudius and Polonius are standing behind the arras. I think, if I were producing this, if I were directing this, you would see their toes sticking out just under the curtain. Because they hear everything Hamlet says. And we're told that immediately after. Okay? So, King, Queen, and Polonius go back and forth, and it's 10:05. We will pick up, bottom of page 1268, Act 2, Scene 2, with Hamlet calling Polonius a pimp. Not literally, he calls him a fishmonger. Your gloss tells you that's a nice word for essentially a pimp. What your gloss doesn't tell you is what it really means. A seller of fish. That's all it means. But it does have the other connotation. Okay, don't forget there's a quiz due tonight. I think it's tonight.
Yeah, it's fine.
Over 1 and 2?
I think, yeah.
I think that's it.